And what is up, guys? Technicals Tinkers here, back at you with the 3D print operation for today. Quick exposition. I own a business, has nothing to do with 3D printing, but I'm like, hey, I got this big warehouse, I got all this room, 3D printers are cool, maybe I can do it here at home, prove the concept, scale it up, put it in my warehouse, but I gotta prove it at home first, and I'm a total novice at this, so this is just exhibition. I'm not an expert, this is not instructional, so give me your tips in the comments below. Appreciate everybody commenting and helping me on this journey. So what have I got going on today? Well, you saw in the opening pre-roll, it always happens towards the end with these enormous prints. This is the lower section of the big Glock that I was doing. These supports, been keeping my eye on them the whole time, were just peachy keen, and then it decides to S the bed. So that's a bummer, had to stop the print on that. Over here on the Soval, we're doing a little bracket thing. That's like my favorite part about 3D printing is like, if I need like a little bracket or some kind of like just weird little thing, I just design it real fast and print it. And so what it's for is the A1's like flushing over here, and I put the trash can next to it, but it keeps missing. So I got a ton of these bins, and I was like, well, I need to put this bin here, but there's nothing for it. So I just made a little bracket, measured it out, and so this should rest on it very easily and catch all the discharge. So that's going over there. Another Glock section. This one just finished. Oh, very nice. So this is the lower part of the handle of the grip for the Glock. And over here on K4, I had all these issues with the D20 cubes failing, and they're always failing around like the 19. And so my thinking was, if I reorient the model to sit on a different face, then I can choose which numbers have the most aggressive overhang, which ones are most likely to encounter an issue. And so what I did was I took 3 variants here, printing them in the silk, same settings, but they're on different faces. So like, for instance, I don't even remember which number is down, but like, for instance, this one has a 4, one over here has something else. You get the idea. So it's more of a test for that, because I've crunk up the overhang threshold. I was playing with the support settings, but it's just something about the silk, I think. The supports look fine until they don't, and then it just turns into a mess. And so that's kind of prompted another change in strategy. We'll get into that in a second. Our character model's looking pretty good. Let's make her decent for a second. And so she should be coming out shortly. Oh man. Yeah, it's not gonna happen. So I've been going back and forth on this. Appreciate all the comments on this Don't Tread on Me wall placard. I was having a lot of problems with the black showing through the yellow. And so I've been trying tons of different things. I made the top shell layers at, the top shell is set to 5 millimeters. So that's super heavy, and still right there, you can see the black coming through. So I don't know, man. It's from infill, and obviously there is infill in this. I think it's like maybe 1% infill. I'm not exactly sure how to go from there, because it prints on a very flat plane. It's gonna flush to infill, and people saying don't flush to infill. On nearly every art model I've ever done, I turn off flush to infill, but it still flushes to, it's still like, you know, other color. I don't know how to make it to where it's putting the infill vertically speaking based on the color, because there's black text on that part. And so how would it know to do it from the top down? Maybe there is a setting, but that doesn't seem like something that they would go to that length, because most people aren't sort of printing these flat multicolor things. They're printing like these, you know, things that have some height to it. And even if you like cut the model, slice the model, or assemble it or anything, you lose all the painting in Bamboo Studio, and I am not repainting that model. I'd just as soon make the background black and the text another color, because I've got like 5 hours worth of painting in there, and it's a little much. So back in here, we've got our little boy atomic device. So I don't want to say the B word in videos, because the transcript will pick it up, but I was able to get these glued on, looking good. Again, not really thrilled about this color. Now this is army green, as opposed to this one, which is like just a camouflage dark green. I think this one looks more military-ish, army-ish than this. All right, so it's late in the day. It's not quite the next morning yet, but this thing, appreciate all the suggestions I've been getting. most people saying stop flushing the infill. I never flushed the infill. So this is the most, well, actually, this is the most recent iteration. And I started doing it again. I had specified 10 top layers, but it's still showing through. And someone was saying use the sphere instead of the circle. I always use the sphere. But I think I found out what was going on. If you remember, this model was originally for like laser cutting, laser engraver, that kind of thing. So it had a billion faces on it. And that's why it's been so hard to paint. It's because the edge detection, there are so many edges. And I even simplified this model. But what was happening is it was from where I filled some of these faces, those faces connected to lower faces, and I did I repaired non-manifold edges, but still some of them filled. Well, I just corrected it, so I can't really illustrate this, but if I kind of layer down here, I think I fixed it all. I think I fixed it all. See, it was really bad down here. Maybe somewhat, no. All right, so I think I got it. But again, what I suspect was, or what I'm confident was happening is, again, when I would like fill, say, this T here, this T, one of the faces there was connected to like these lower faces that are kind of like underneath. It doesn't make any damn sense to me because I repaired it. I don't know why it would do that, but this black is in the top layers. And when I went through and I've like adjusted the painting and resliced this thing probably 20 or 30 times just this afternoon. It would, like, when you're moving up through the layers, you would see in one of these top layers was a little patch of black. And so that's the only explanation that I have, is that when I was paint filling, it went in. So what I did was I went through with the sphere and repainted just over every single thing to make it yellow, sliced again, and confirmed there was no black anywhere in these layers until you get to the infill, which I can't turn it off. But the infill shouldn't show through like that with this many top shell layers. So I think I fixed it. I'm gonna go through, print another one, and I should be able to tell by the morning whether or not it's gonna work out. So stay tuned. What's up? Unprofitable? I agree. What about you? What do you think? Is this gonna make us $1 billion? Yeah, I didn't think so either. It is the next morning, checking in, see what happened. So we had those failures on the big Glock, but I think we're in a better place. I wasn't even thinking, I have my brain trained on organic supports, but the Glock's kind of a boxy, squarish sort of model. I was like, let's use regular supports. So I did that. These two sections of the slide are coming out pretty good so far, so fingers crossed there. The lower section here that's been causing us a lot of trouble, that one seems to be okay, and the other grip section seems to be all right as well. Kind of running low on filament. I probably need to, well, I ordered 20 kilos from Elegoo a few days ago. I have to check the tracking to see where it's at, because I'm down to 3 spools left. And that's, that might seem like a lot to some people, but really I like to have at least 1 million. And so yesterday, the in-between update video, I just painted the top of this. Now it gives, it's less than a desirable sort of look than coloring in on the sides. But when I colored it in on the sides, it didn't have any of that bleed through. Now there's a couple small areas here and right, I don't want to put my finger in here and the thing come catch me, right there. So I'm thinking we're gonna see how it comes out all the way. Someone was telling me to use negatives and like remove the text and then put the text back in. I will explore that option if this like is not sort of usable. But what I really want is to just be able to press play, pull this off the plate and put it in a box, because I feel like I am close painting deeper with the sphere into there. It's just the model's so complex. The sphere, I wish they had another shape other than the sphere to paint deep, because the sphere kind of paints other parts of the model and then I have to go back and correct. And again, this model has so many faces that when I paint it, it requires all this correction to other parts, which you're kind of always going back and forth. And my skill is improving in that regard, but this comes with the territory, I suppose. We did get an order last night for a hornet nest, so I'm gonna need to print another one for stock. I do like keeping things in stock. That's my new motto. So maybe the Soval. We'll see if the Soval can handle it. I'll load up this gray and then we'll get that going. But let's go pack up that order now. All right, and so we got an order for a hornet nest. Got it packed up here. I just used 2 of these boxes. I really keep about 3 different sizes on hand. And yeah, I got one of these machines too. Although I still use quite a lot of bubble wrap because I have rolls and rolls and rolls of this at the warehouse. So, we're ready to go. Maybe I'll just let this run because you always seem to need more than you really think. And these pillows are good for like filling up a lot of space, but you know, you can't really wrap something in these. They're just too big. So I got this one all packed up, ready to ship. I got the shipping label on it. So let's take a quick look at how much profit I make off of one hornet nest. All right, again, this is very back of the envelope, but I'm just kind of jotting it down here based on this one sample order. So the total revenue that I took in was $42.27. You back out tax out of that, the Etsy fee. I calculate that off the retail cost of the item. Now I do free shipping on all my items because if you do that, you get that little green badge there. People like free shipping. I just work it into the cost, and everything seems pretty expensive, but you'll see, you know, once you back it all out, it's like there are places to trim off costs, but I back it out of there. So I take 6.5%. I know if you kind of add it up, it can kind of creep up to like 10% maybe. I'm just doing 6.5 right now. And just like if I get super low in terms of like the total profit I'm reaping off of this, then it's time to just reevaluate the product entirely. So I'm figuring in $256 for the Etsy's fees. The print cost in total filament, that's $6. That's figured up with failure as well. So it's actually a little lower than that, but I figure in $6 to print the thing because this is a big model. The packing cost I figure in $3, and so that's those boxes are like probably about $1 a piece. Packing material, tape, things like that. Could be a little less, maybe a little more, but $3 is probably about right. And the total shipping cost for this particular one, USPS Ground Advantage, $15.14. I could probably shave off more there. I print through Etsy currently. I don't do enough volume to really merit going through one of these third-party things like Pirate Ship or any of those other ones. I've been certainly keeping an eye on that in the future. So our total cost coming out to $26, and that gives me like a $12.80 in profit. So, it seems like a lot, but like this model is like there's virtually no post-production to it. It's popping the supports off, wrapping it in bubble and putting it in a box and shipping it. And so that's an ideal sort of setup for me. And again, appreciate all the replies. I put out that sort of talking head video yesterday where I was talking about like the financials and how I'm approaching things. A lot of you guys inflate my ego way too much. You're far too kind. You don't have to say things like that to make me feel better. I appreciate it nonetheless. And a lot of people saying too, like, this doesn't make any sense. You're never going to win. It's how are you a business owner? But and then one person sort of mentioning like, have you looked into Slant 3D? They seem like not a drop shipper, but like a white label sort of 3D print service. So basically the idea with that is like, yeah, I could never compete with them. But my conjecture would be is that Slant 3D is not really competing with like small individual operators, is that they're competing with mass production in China. So if you have an idea for a product and you want to commission a 3D print farm to do it, you go to Slant 3D and they can print it for you. But at that point, if you're buying in bulk like that, then why wouldn't you just go to Shenzhen and get it for a quarter of the price, half the price? But I think 3D print's probably better suited for, and again, this is me working out in my head right now. This is me discovering all this. I'm not talking as if I know anything at all, but sort of individualized products and products that need to be highly adaptable. So for instance, like the crypto mining thing, a new miner comes out with new measurements, configurations, measurements and things like that. You'll be able to slap together and make a companion product for it very quickly versus going to China for it. And you'll be able to serve it to customers quickly. And those customers are concerned about getting it quickly. The point being is that it allows you to adapt to the market very quickly versus mass production. So Slant 3D is certainly a great option, but again, that sort of requires that you have the product or the idea. And if you're a designer, if you're a CAD guru and you're able to come up with ideas very easily, then you're set to begin with. I'm certainly gravitate more towards the fulfillment side of things. And sure, I'll never be able to compete with something like Slant 3D, but I'm just not sure how their model works because it seems like it would rely on those ongoing, consistent, large orders
to maintain that sort of size and scale. And if they're following any traditional business model where they're trying to sell to a larger company or, you know, grow, then they're going to need that. They don't, I mean, when you're a company, you don't want a bunch of small orders coming through. I mean, that's not the ideal model. You want big, raging, consistent orders from B to B. You don't want to deal with, you know, idiots like me that want one or two of something and they want to change it and then they want to call you and they want to talk about it. Anyway, for today, we're going to be working on some other artsy stuff, some hopefully getting some other things on Etsy. Art models, continuing to work on these. I think I'm about ready to give up on them, to be honest with you, because I can never really get the support settings right. They never break off cleanly. I'm sitting here fussing over it, and then it's like the slightest little, and the model, you know, a critical piece of it falls off and it's ruined, and I'm like, I just, you know, burned. It's not even the filament cost. I don't give a shit about the filament cost. It's more about the time it just takes to make these. And, you know, for $40, it's like, well, I should just focus development onto something else, or focus in more so on a large model that has certainly a higher markup and more room for it, because it just seems like no matter what I do, I'm never getting clean pulls on these, and especially in areas where there's a lot of support. All the different Z distances, all the different interface layer, number of interface layers, number of interface line spacings, any combination of these things, the heat, the different types of filament, you know, just everything. I can never get a super good result. And with the approach I was taking with the other models is that, you know, I don't need to make it perfect, but, you know, not being perfect and not being sellable because parts of the model fell off and just removing the supports, it's kind of a big delta there. So anyway, shelving that for now and moving on to some other things, but let me know what you want to see in the comments below. Appreciate everybody watching and giving me all your feedback. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I'm the Technicals. See you next time.